Hey everybody, did you know you can go to ColinMullen.com in order to get art and art prints? It's why I set up the website, ColinMullen.com. So hey everybody, this week I'm painting a duck, and the duck came out good. The painting did not, and that's a little weird, but yeah, I got so hyper-focused on making sure that the duck looked good that I kind of like forgot to do the background to the quality of the duck, and I feel like it's fairly stark that you can tell the difference. There's like some water in the background, so like the green is like it reflecting the grass that's nearby. This is a picture taken by my mod in my Twitch chat, the Luigi guy. Everyone just calls him Luigi guy though, because that's like normal way of speaking. Anyway, but yeah, so I've been getting some comments on some old videos, and typically what I do is about every Saturday or Sunday every other week, I'll start trolling through the comments on previous videos to see like what people are talking about, what people are interested in talking about, that kind of thing. Because as I've discussed in previous videos, I really don't feel like that the conversations that we're having in art are actually like relevant to anyone at all. And that kind of just makes it seem like we're just buying and selling product of art and not really like making art necessarily. We're just doing like TikToks. And like, listen, I don't have a problem with that, but that just isn't me. I want to talk about art. And so I've talked about being up against a wall and, you know, not having things to talk about aside from things that are going on politically, which, boy howdy, what a week this has been. Yeah. I don't feel like anything I've said has aged poorly regarding my political views, despite the rumblings of a small minority of people who are very vocal. But that being said, I did post a video a while ago, which continues to be one that just gains new comments all the time, talking about why aren't there conservative artists, you know? And so one of the conservative artists that was brought up was Salvador Dali, you know? And Salvador Dali is, let's be honest, an amazing painter. Like, he is a inspiration to many. He is like a gold standard. If you talk about artists, you go, name 5 painters, someone's gonna name Dali in those top 5. It's gonna be like him, Picasso, Van Gogh, and then from there it gets a little muddy, maybe like naming any of the turtles, you know, like Michelangelo, Leonardo, yada yada, because, you know, they're obviously named after artists. My point being that he's one of the most popular artists of all time, and it's because he was largely one of the people who helped make the Surrealist movement, which was a really interesting time in, you know, world art, is the Surrealist movement. What do you do when you mix Freudian psychology, like psychoanalysis, and dream stuff, and accepting that dreams are important to daily lives, and the idea of the id and the ego and the superego? How do you combine all that stuff also with just the nonsense that was the just ability to see World War I and how absurd and stupid life can be? Like, how do you respond to that? And to a lot of people, it was to respond in kind, to equally do something stupid and absurd and nonsensical, because, like, what is the point of making stuff that makes sense in a world that doesn't? Like, why not just go with the bit and be weird with it? And Dali definitely kind of did both of those things, obviously. You know, he had this whole concept of holding a spoon in his hand, and then as he would start to fall asleep, he would drop the spoon, which means that it would wake him up because it would hit the ground or it hit a plate or something. I forget exactly how he did it, and that sound would be enough to wake him up. Now, how much of this is real? How much is this is just like the ability of Salvador Dali to be able to sell himself? Because he was an incredibly charming man who was, you know, very good at the selling of art concept, the idea of being able to be a celebrity personality. And to some degree, I kind of feel like he was one of the first that like had television appeal. You know, seeing him on What's My Line, I highly recommend watching that. I would call it an interview, but it's really not. The idea is that he's a famous person, and then they have a barrier up, and they've got some comedians from back in the day trying to guess who he is and what he does, and he's just a little bit of a troll. It's a hilarious video. And a lot of people were pointing out in my video talking about why are there no conservative artists, they'd point out Salvador Dali. And you know what? You're right. I didn't mention Dali because I just sort of forgot him, which is weird to say, but also because I didn't really feel like it would be 100% fair to mention Dali. And I really don't feel like he's like... Listen, your fave is kind of problematic. Your fave is very problematic, actually. When we talk about where Dali came into the art world and when he came into the art world and what his place was, the guy was doing art and he was a very popular figure in the 1930s, as I was just saying. Like, he was everywhere. Like, he was a celebrity. He was on TV shows. He was recognizable walking his anteater through, the streets of New York City and so on and so forth. And so, like, obviously... the war going on, like, it was kind of like, hey man, what do you think of all that? And he generally did not have anything negative to say. He was fairly neutral on the subject of Germany. But in more private conversations where he has sent letters between different, artists, it almost seems like he's really into the guy. Like, he's really into the concept of, like, he's like, look, if it's got this many followers, there's got to be something to it, right? Referring to fascism and Nazism specifically. Okay, so this is why I was getting confused. He was apparently kicked out twice, once in 1934 and again in 1939 from the Surrealist movement. When he was kicked out in 1939, it was because he was talking to his friend, Andre Breton. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right, but it's the other guy who helped develop Surrealism with him. He was like, hey, you're kind of saying some weird stuff, man. And, just kind of confronting him about, like, hey, man, like, I know you're doing, like, a thing where you're trying to get into his head, but, like, it's kind of, like, weirding me out, man. And to that, like, he was asked, like, well, what do you think about all the racism that they're doing? And the translation that I have here says, the domination or submission to slavery of all the colored races, end quote, could be possible if, quote, all the whites united fanatically. He also, got kicked out because he just stopped, hiding that he was super into Francisco Franco, the dictator. So Breton, he decides to message him back and be like, hey, you're joking, right? And he responded back that no, I'm not. I'm actually super duper into this stuff. Like, this is all cool. And in fact, that Nazism is potentially the government of surrealism, and that the swastika could be a surrealist symbol, and that there's another letter here that I'm quoting a lot of stuff from a article. I'll link it. It's a article in El Pas saying called "The Day Dali Invented a Racist Religion," and he says, according to this, I declare that even though I may have pity and negative opinions of the cruel lynchings and bonfires, I admit to feeling a real pleasure and considerable sexual excitement in reading about such things, but I do not intend to censure those who burn blacks alive and lynch them. I have to consider the legitimate pleasure that drives these people. Although I reject the odious social reasons beyond passion and the pleasures that are causes of such conflicts, which is a wild take if I've ever heard one. Like, listen, I'm not gonna do anything to stop it, and I'm not gonna, say that they're good people for it, but it kind of gets me off to see people get lynched, which is not a thing that you should be saying. And there's obviously there's always the argument of like, well, it was a different time, it was a different era, so like, being this kind of racist is, kind of normal or whatever. But like, no, because literally, like, his friends were like, dude, you're being weird. He was heavily criticized in his time for being racist and for being someone who seems to have, fascist sensibilities. So yeah, y'all can have him if you want. I don't know if he's who you want to have. I think that I could probably have done a much deeper dive into Dali, and there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Don't get me wrong. The guy was very influential and very interesting, and he had a lot of weird concepts, and he was a funny guy, but also straight up fascist in ways that cannot be ignored. And I think this is again one of those cases of, can you enjoy the art while still not liking the artist? And I think that I personally can, with Dali at least. I can kind of see him in the same way that I would see like a Bernini or like a Picasso, where it's just like horrible people, especially to the women in their lives, but they did really good art, and I don't really see that they showed that awful side of themselves in their work. And I feel like, Dali is in a very similar sort of boat, at least for me, where you don't see like, I don't know, it doesn't have like the weirdness of a Degas that once you learn that he thought it was like, I don't know, cool or awesome or at least enjoyable that the girls, the little monkeys as he referred to them, that their feet would bleed from all of the exercise and all the work they would have to do. It makes him like painting them kind of have a different vibe, whereas with Dali I don't really have that same sort of connection, where it's like the problematic or the weird behavior that he has is not like exemplified in his work. And to get back to the point, I guess, of why are there no conservative artists, is because, like, aside from two paintings that I would say probably both sort of make fun of Hitler, or at least one does, which I'm trying not to get demonetized more than this video already has been, but look it up, you'll probably find it. The one that does the most, critique of him was done before the war, and I think largely was done to kind of just get a rise and to troll Andre Breton. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's one. But he's such a weird guy that it could be argued that it's for the bit, but like, how long does the bit go before you just go, now hold on, like, you actually believe this, don't you? And I believe that is actually the case to some degree with Dali, is that he was actually just a fascist. There's that. Anyway, now's the part of the video where I'm supposed to thank y'all for coming out and watching, because honestly, thank you. This is a long video and sort of a cursory explanation of Dali's weirdness, but if you want to support me in doing cursory explorations of different topics in order to give you a leaping off point to do more investigation and to talk about art while painting ducks, you can do that, and you can support me via patreon.com/RevScarecrow. There you go, there's an ad read. I want to thank the people at the $5 tier or more, because they get an extra special thank you in the ending here, which is what I'm about to do, starting with my mom and dad. I love you. And thank you, Wapfu. Thank you, Fixie Lux. Thank you, Trusty Patches. Thank you, Tofoundor. Thank you, Split. Thank you, Spaghetto. Thank you, Sophia Nope. Thank you, Skelecorgi. Thank you, Seraph. Thank you, Reverend Joe. Thank you, Pig Wrestler. Thank you, MP. Thank you, Mortis. Thank you, Michael Carr. Thank you, Lua Ray. Thank you, Katie Valent. Thank you, Josepher. Thank you, Gabriel Bennett. Thank you, Freak Wannabe. Thank you, Egg. Thank you, Count Cannoli. Thank you, Chiptune Glitch. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Aguag. And thank you, Ats! That was a good one today. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, let me know. Thanks. Okay, bye.